the Navy, the Marine Corps will continue to build on the heroism, the commitment to freedom that was demonstrated so vibrantly, so vividly, and so often here 70 years ago. To the survivors here today, and to those who are with us only in spirit and memory, thank you. Thank you for your legacy, and thank you for the opportunity to honor your heroism. We must never forget. We must never fail, as you did not fail, to meet and defeat any challenge to America and what America stands for. Thank you very much.
Secretary of the Navy, Ray Mabus, thank you. And now we're honored to welcome Mr. William Muleib, the last national president of the Pearl Harbor Survivor Association. He has a special announcement on behalf of the association.
Thank you for that introduction. In August of this year, it became readily apparent that due to the ages and health of our membership, a decision would have to be made on its future. At a meeting in Ontario, California, our executive board made the decision that our corporate association would end December 31st of this year. By no means was that decision intended in any way to terminate the social interchanges and the comradeship that had developed and moved forward from December 7th, 1941. I'd like to take a moment and ask those members of the executive board, as I call their name and made that decision, to stand and be recognized for their courage in making that decision. Our Vice President, Mal Middlesworth. Our Secretary, George Bennett. Our Treasurer, Jerry Porter. Our District Director, Sam Fryfield. George Blake, Bob Kerr, and Bernie Comito. Not all of these people are here today, but for those that are here, a round of applause, please. Thank you, gentlemen. I also want to thank those Pearl Harbor survivors who are here today, entirely on their own, made the decision to pay their honor and respects to their comrades who are still here. It was gratifying to find, as I heard, over 120 members of the association and Pearl Harbor survivors are here. Thank you, gentlemen. It is also in order at this time to thank all of you who've taken your time to come visit and share this 70th anniversary with us. I particularly want to recognize Paul Dupre from the National Park Service, the Commander of the Navy Region Hawaii, Admiral Frank Pons, and their staffs for the wonderful support they have provided all of us at this remembrance and commemorative meeting, our 70th anniversary. I thank you for giving me this moment. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Muleib. Thank you for your service. Now please welcome Lieutenant General Dwayne Thiessen, Commander of the U.S. Marine Corps Forces Pacific, who will introduce today's keynote speaker.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and especially our survivors and veterans here today, it's my privilege to introduce the keynote speaker this morning, Mr. Mal Middlesworth. He's the Vice President of the Pearl Harbor Survivors Association. He's also a Marine. He's here with his wife, and he was proud to tell me that in Elgin, Illinois, they were high school sweethearts, but they've now been married for 67 years. In April of 1941, Mal Middlesworth made a decision, and he left Elgin. He joined the United States Marine Corps, and that launched him on a series of events that would take him across the Pacific at a time of war. And it started right here, 70 years ago today, just on the other side of the structure you see in this general direction, on the other side of an area known as the Southeast Lock. He was on the USS San Francisco. He was on duty. And I'm going to let him tell his story in his words. But I would like to hear a warm welcome for Platoon Sergeant Mal Middlesworth, please.
I used to be 6'4", but you shrink a little with age. General Thiessen, Leslie, ladies and gentlemen, we gather here today to commemorate the 70th anniversary of one of the most significant events of the 20th century. We do this best by honoring all who gave their lives on all of the military bases on the island of Oahu that Sunday, not just Pearl Harbor. We also commemorate those comrades who have died since the attack, and those survivors who cannot make it one more trip to join us here today. For we want to honor them for their sacrifice and service. We would be remiss if we did not also recognize the hardships the attack inflicted on the civilian population, affecting many local families for generations. The day of infamy united our country as never before. The country rallied around the slogan, "Remember Pearl Harbor." The home front responded with sacrifice and dedication and built an industrial complex that would not only manufacture the tools of war, but would also provide the prosperity and the jobs for the troops when they returned home. Unlike World War I, there were no reparations demanded from the enemies. On Veterans Day, my wife and I visited a Christian school in Southern California. The students ranged from preschool to 8th grade. Their parents obviously were there. However, their proud grandfathers also attended, who were World War II veterans. After the ceremony, the veterans lined up outside the school, and they passed by, all the students passed by, class by class. They shook our hands and said, "Thank you for your service," or something similar. On my right was a survivor from the USS West Virginia. On my left, a survivor from Wheeler Field. Preschool to 8th grade, each handshake and each comment from these young people are the reasons why the enduring legacy of Pearl Harbor means so much to me. The Pearl Harbor Survivors Association has been dedicated to speaking to students across the nation since its inception in 1958. We all wanted generations to explore the history of Pearl Harbor with the men and women who were actually there. That's why our San Diego chapter has talked to over 104,000 students since December of 1987. They wanted young America to understand that freedom isn't free, never has been, looks like it's never going to be. That's why so many schools and agencies like the National Park Service and the Library of Congress have recorded and videotaped thousands of survivors' oral histories for future generations. Remember, he who forgets history will live it again. Our local chapters have erected memorials in many national and private cemeteries. Many of our nation's highways and bridges have been dedicated to Pearl Harbor through the efforts of our local members. We made certain that the Navy included a ship named Pearl Harbor. The Aloha chapter has raised over $125,000 in the last 6 years by signing, autographing pictures and other documents. And State Chairman Ray Emery continues his challenge to recognize the unidentified remains of victims of the attack and then return them to their families. To me, the most significant part of the enduring legacy is what we did after Pearl Harbor. On December 7th, I was a member of the Marine Detachment of the heavy cruiser USS San Francisco in Pearl Harbor. The San Francisco would win 17 major battle stars and the first presidential unit citation of the war. On December 16th, we left Pearl Harbor for